Hi, and welcome back. My name is Deneen. You can call me D. I'm an astrologer and I teach people the psychology behind marketing. And today we're going to be diving into Pluto in the 12th house. So let's go. Pluto in the 12th house. Pluto in the 12th house. If you have this placement, you can very much have felt like earlier on, that your power, especially a person who was in control or supposed to be an authority figure over you, could have tried to take your power away from you, or could have made you feel or try to make you feel powerless. Okay. Now Pluto in the 12th house, okay, you can also deal with trying to escape or having escapism tendencies, okay, having addictions. But also Pluto in the 12th house, there can be some things that happen earlier on in your childhood or happen to you in the womb, okay, when you were in your mother's womb. Now Pluto in the 12th house, there are a couple of images that come up when I think of Pluto in the 12th house, and this just depends on what's happening in the chart. Now if you have Pluto in the 12th house and you have another planet in the opposite house, which is the 6th house, okay, and it is very exact the aspect that is making to your Pluto, I can very much get the image, and the image that I think of when I think of that is a person walking on a tightrope over the ocean with a backpack on, okay. And the reason why I say that is the 6th house deals with our day-to-day existence, okay, daily routine, all right, and the 12th house is our imagination, our imaginative faculties, all right. But the imagination doesn't just come from nowhere. The imagination is from the soul, and the soul is not the way that we teach it over here in the West, okay. However, imagination, okay, and how this person is coming to imagine and bring something about, it could very much be something that's happening, whether this is on a day-to-day basis that they're doing themselves, or is just a part of their routine that is making them ruminate on this vision and what it is that they do want to bring into existence. But the rumination of it and the over rumination of it, especially once this aspect, if there is an aspect there, it's very exact. The rumination of it can bring about these fears, okay, that have them with, as I said, a person walking on a tightrope across the freaking ocean, okay. What if the rope breaks? What if I fall into the water? Oh my goodness, what is in the water underneath? What if the backpack on my back, the backpack on my back, what if it falls over into the ocean? Those types of freaking thoughts. And it's not just like, oh, this happens just once. It's like, this is something that they ponder and they wonder on sometimes, okay? Now, as I said, you have to look at the chart as a whole. But when there's an exact aspect happening between the 6th and the 12th house, there can very much be something that this person envisions, or a vision that they have, that they're wanting to bring into existence. But there also could be this vision that they are pondering on, all right? Now, Pluto in the 12th house, the imagination and the power that the imagination has, okay? When I think of that, I very much think of the image of a person on a boat. Yes, they're on deck, okay? And the wind, whether it's soft wind, hard wind, it's wind that's touching their face. And the boat is moving to shore. And as it moves to shore, the image of land gets bigger and bigger. And where before there were not clear, sharp edges, there were not clear distinctions of things, there are, okay? Now Pluto in the 12th house, I want you to take that same image and power of the imagination, and I want you to now take that and put it on track, all right? And when I say take that and put it on track, you know exactly who I'm about to talk about. Flojo, okay? Flojo, or Florence, all right? Now, Flojo, she has Pluto in her 12th house. Flojo is also a Libra rising. She has Venus in her 2nd house, and she also has Neptune there with Venus in her 2nd house. Venus is in the sign of Scorpio, and Flojo has her sun in Sagittarius along with a stellium of planets. Now, there are a couple of aspects being made here. The super important one is that Pluto in her 12th house is conjunct her moon, making an aspect to Neptune, where Neptune is sitting pretty close to Venus, her chart ruler, and Neptune is making that aspect to Saturn, which is in her 4th house, okay? Now, all this being said, this is putting the endurance on Flojo and how it is that from a young age she was able to run, okay, and be this athletic person, but she had the endurance not to just run and be this athletic person. But with Venus in the sign of Scorpio and having this higher octave Neptune here, where Venus would usually in the sign of Scorpio have a person dealing or coming into contact with things that could make them feel like they're not being fully reimbursed or recompensated for what it is that they have. With Neptune being here also, this is not giving that same thing, because this vision, Pluto in the 12th house, okay, with the moon there, even on a subconscious level, okay, Flojo has this big, powerful imagination image that she's grounding in through the work that she inherently does with her body, through the movement of her body, and the things that her body has to endure for her to train, okay? And with her sun, of course, as it progressed on and moves to the sign Capricorn, making that energy and the emphasis of that energy going to Saturn, where it sits in the sign of Capricorn, okay? With her sun being progressed there, it would take all of that energy and all that training or of what she's learned, and it's grounding that in a very real way. Okay? Now, Flojo, with Pluto in the 12th house, there probably was an image or an image that she had in her mind of who it is that she wanted to be, the woman that she wanted to be. Okay? And as we said, Venus, a chart ruler, sitting with Neptune. Okay? Of course, receiving these aspects from Pluto and the moon, and Pluto and the moon, okay, receiving these aspects from freaking Pluto and having Neptune aspect Saturn, the grounding in of this vision that she had from early on, okay, because she did the work. And not only did she just do the work, but she did the work and she actually sat there and trained her body to endure what it is that she wanted to do, which is be this fast athlete when it came to racing. And she was able to become the fastest woman, okay, when it came to racing. And now we're going to move on to Pluto in the 12th house for Mr. Ice Cube. Ice Cube, he has Pluto in his 12th house, but Ice Cube, he also has his Mars in the sign of Sagittarius as well, also sitting in his 3rd house. But opposite this Mars is Gemini with Mercury, okay? And his sun also being there. So a lot of the imagination or his visual faculties was used, okay, for him to really use and utilize his words and the way that he presents his words and communicates himself on stage. Okay? Now, also because he has this opposition, it's a very cool opposition, I must say. But in opposition, Mars and Mercury, all right, 3rd house, 9th house. And of course, this is going to progress, and we're going to have Capricorn here and Cancer. All right, this is bringing about not just him utilizing his words in the way that he communicates, but he's making this into a career. All right, he's making this into a career, okay, because Mercury is just sitting in Gemini right now. All right, and then it's going to go over into Cancer. All right, so the way that he does and puts words together, all right, since Mercury is moving over into Cancer, and Cancer has some other things there, it's not him just making words anymore, but the rhythm and his tonality, his tonation, it's even more exerted there because of the planets he also has sitting there in the sign of Cancer. Okay? As the aspect, of course, progress. Okay? But I just was so fascinated by seeing that in his chart, because I had just looked at his chart and I just felt like, oh my goodness, like this is so cool. But anyways, Pluto in the 12th house, it had him using his powerful imagination to present these words in the way that he communicated these words on stage, okay, to a group, of course, of people. But these words, nonetheless, he had to envision the way that he would say them before he presented them, all right? Now, we're also going to be talking about Marilyn Monroe. Okay, now Marilyn Monroe, a lot of people do talk about Pluto in her chart. And I use whole signs, so Pluto's in the 12th house when I'm looking at her chart here. And so Pluto in the 12th house for Marilyn Monroe, earlier on in life, because she was orphaned, well, okay, there was a lot of things that happened to her, went on with her. We're not going to get into those things, okay? But there was a lot of things that happened and went on with her. Her Mars is in the 8th house, okay? So she could have felt like this power that she had on her and just in her. Like she couldn't use it herself, but other people got to utilize it, okay? And now, as she got older and as she grew up, okay, in the aspects that's happening in her chart, okay, because this is not just Pluto in the 12th house. Her aspects are, okay, her aspects are, they're up there, all right? Now, this T-square that she has in her chart, she has between her 1st house, 7th house, and her 4th house. And she has Neptune, I believe, in her 1st house in the sign of Leo. And then she has Jupiter in the sign of Aquarius, also with another planet. She has Jupiter in the sign of Aquarius, but she also has her moon also in the sign of Aquarius in her 7th house, okay? And she has Saturn in Scorpio, all right, retrograde in her 4th house, all right? So, that being said, that happening, all right, now we see Saturn retrograde, and it's in the sign Scorpio. Yes, we do not, and we would not use this in traditional astrology to say it this way, but in modern day astrology, and you can see this from her life because her life has already played out, so you can look and see for yourself, okay, that her father and the influence of the father was of course removed from her life, okay, and so the way that she used her Mars energy was very different earlier on in life versus later on in life, because she did not have certain examples of that, all right, present in her life, period, point blank. All right, I don't care what anybody has to say about her chart. She did not have that example, and she was orphaned. Therefore, the things that happened and went on with her, all right, as they happened and went on with her, led to her feeling like she could not utilize that power in a certain way until she got older, all right? Which is why she was becoming an actress and getting into a lot of things later on in life. But Marilyn Monroe, she was always quite intelligent. She has her sun in the 11th house. She has it in the sign of Gemini, and Mercury is not too far away from her sun. Okay, so she has been intelligent from the very beginning, and she was quite intelligent for a long time. But she did not utilize this intelligence, and she did not fully exert and utilize her Mars because of situations that happened to her early on. And because Mars is connected to Pluto, all right, that energy, because the 8th house is your finances, okay, your debt finances, and that energy, when it pertains to how much money she could have made, how much money she could have made just earlier on in life, it was not something that she utilized until later on, okay? And with Neptune being in her 1st house, Marilyn Monroe's main thing was utilizing the fact that people had this fantasy, this illusion about her, so that she could, okay, utilize this intelligence in the way she was intelligent in a different way, all right, through this illusion and stuff that people had of her, all right. Also, I've seen this opposition a few times now, between these signs. And between these signs, and specifically with Jupiter and the moon, okay? But Jupiter and the moon in the sign of Aquarius, there was a lot of truths that she learned as it pertains to how it is that she would use her power in this lifetime, and how people viewed who she was in this lifetime, and how she can utilize that to her benefit. We're not going to break down her whole freaking chart. There's a lot of people that have already done that. But Pluto in the 12th house, the imagination, the imaginative faculties, who she envisioned herself as in the first half of her life, could have been completely different from what she came to envision later on in her life, because she utilized and owned that power, okay? And Neptune, okay, in the 1st house, in the sign of freaking Leo, how it is that she presents herself was very powerful. And her owning Pluto in the 12th house and her Mars, all right, her owning that and using that in the way that she presents herself to her benefit, so that she can actually be around people who weren't just going to admire her for her looks, but actually admire her for her brains was very important to her. Okay, and that's how she utilized her Pluto in the 12th house. 12th house is also behind the scenes. So there's a lot of things that went on behind the scenes that we till today would not know about from Miss Marilyn Monroe. Okay? And if you have your Pluto in the 12th house, I would encourage you to understand that you are very powerful on a soul level. What it is that you have when it comes to what it is that you envision, okay? And regardless of things that have happened with you, okay, there is always, and I'm going to say that again, there is always another way of looking at something, all right? Because you don't have to ruminate on an image. You don't have to replay an image. You don't have to go back to the past. You don't have to if you don't want to, okay? Pluto in the 12th house, you are amazing when it comes to things that you can create and you can ground in. But if you don't feel it, okay? If you don't feel it on a soul level, if you are not truly in tune with yourself on a soul level, okay? You can't numb yourself out of something. You cannot continuously escape, okay? Even though that might be something that happens along the road sometimes, all right? You can utilize and you can use what happens and goes on in your mind to your benefit, all right? And a lot of the times with Pluto in the 12th house, you can have people who are amazing when it comes to prayer, who are amazing when it comes to meditation, and specifically when we're speaking of meditation, meditation that involves you using the visual faculties of your mind, because it's not just the crisscross applesauce meditation that is that we're speaking of here, but the actual image that a person has and focuses on in their mind, okay? Pluto in the 12th house, you can also be very prayed up, okay? You can be very prayed up or be very big when it comes to your faith, and just going and being able to really dig into that. Find a lot of power in that. And when I say power, I'm not thinking of power in the way, or speaking of power in the way that we would traditionally speak of it, because this is the 12th house. This is on a soul level, all right? The power of the soul, all right? And that is seen through the imagination and what you will ground in, all right? If you have Pluto in the 12th house and you feel like sometimes you are not your... If you have Pluto in the 12th house and you feel like you are not your standard person when it comes to how it is that you would go about exerting your power, that's okay. All right, that's completely fine, and nobody is going to sit here and down you for that. Actually, a lot of the times what you're looking to have this power and control over is something that you cannot touch, but it is inside of you on a soul level for you to understand about yourself. And this is that journey that you're going on internally in this time, on the vision and what it is that you envision and how you'll bring it to life in this lifetime, okay? And this can be in many different ways, okay? Because Pluto in the 12th house, you can have a powerful imagination, a powerful vision. You can be a painter, and you're bringing that to life on the canvas every day. You understand? But you could also have Pluto in the 12th house and be a person like Ice Cube or a person like Marilyn Monroe. All right, but you can have Pluto in the 12th house and be a person like Flojo. All right, so it really just depends on the chart as a whole and what Mars is really doing. But Pluto in the 12th house, I think it is very, very beautiful. And Pluto in the 12th house, the two images that I said, a person on a boat or a person on a tightrope, you choose. All right, you choose how it is that you envision your life, and how it is that you use your imagination is entirely up to you. And I would say with having Pluto in the 12th house, if there were times in your life where you felt like you didn't have that power, you didn't have what you felt like it took for you to stand up for yourself. You can still have that now. Nobody's stopping you. The only person that could ever stop you in this lifetime, Pluto in the 12th house, would be you. Okay? And that's only if you decide not to envision it. Alright? Now, Pluto in the 12th house. If you have Pluto in the 12th house and this resonated with you, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you don't ever want to miss out on any of our astrology videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you're always notified. And I'll be seeing you guys next time. Bye!